If you don't want to fail your inspection and delay your rental income, stay tuned. Welcome to the Section 8 Sensei. Today we are going to go through housing inspections on how to make sure you pass yours. So remember, the channel is free, so please subscribe, turn on the notifications, and follow our playbook on how to be profitable. So before we move on, leave a comment below and let me know if you've ever failed a Section 8 inspection, and if so, what your deficiency was. So let me know if you failed because you had exposed wires or a cracked window or whatever your deal might be. All right, so we're going to go through the 4 types of inspections that you're going to run across in dealing with Section 8. Okay, now 2 of the 4 most likely you're never going to see. So the top 2 are really only ones that are going to matter. So let's kind of take a look at those real quick. All right, so you have your initial inspection, which is your most important, your biannual or annual inspection, special inspections, or quality control inspections. Right, so every property when you start out is going to require an initial inspection prior to the tenant moving in. Okay, so you can't sign the lease with the tenant until they actually pass the inspection. Okay, so that's a kind of a Section 8 no-no. So if you go ahead and stick the person in there and then start collecting rent and then try to backfill the lease, that's not good. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. So once you have your request for tenancy approval processed with your PHA, that is going to allow you then to move to the inspection process. Okay. Now, if you fail an inspection, you're going to have 30 days to remedy that. All right. And what you obviously don't want to do is fail for any major reasons. And so we're going to kind of go through what you got to do to make sure you're covered there. If you fail a second time, then the contract's going to get canceled, and then you're going to need to, tenant's going to have to go find another property, basically. So you definitely want to make sure you pass on the first time, but definitely the second time. And I'm going to tell you, at least from where we are, the inspectors that we work with are really, really good to work with. And, if they come through and there's a burner out on a stove, or there's, a leak on a shower head or something like that, a lot of times these guys will just, let you, take a picture of it, show a video, show them. They don't want to go back out and re-inspect the property for something super small. So just try to keep it to a minimum with what you have to actually deal with. So here's that quick list again that we just went through, as you can kind of take a look at that. And just like I said, the first part is usually where everybody gets screwed up is they let the tenant sign the lease, or they let them in the property before they pass inspection. And that's kind of the big no-no in that list. All right, so the next thing is kind of a general, checklist, and I'll show you the actual kind of long one as well. But, you have an inspection when you purchase a property. So that home inspection that you get is really, really important because you can use it as a guide. It basically is telling you everything that's wrong. And then you can disseminate which things you're going to fix and which are not. So think of your inspection checklist that you're going to go through of functionality and health and safety. Those are really the 3 things, if you just keep in mind, you'll probably get 99% of the stuff straightened out. Okay, so just be smart about kind of what you're looking for there, and it's going to really help you kind of move through the process. All right, so obviously what you want to make sure of when the inspection goes, you got to have utilities on, okay? The second part is make sure that you have water on, running, no leaks, hot and cold. It has to be, functional. If you don't have hot water, they're going to tag you for that. Heating and cooling both work. Obviously, you're not going to turn the heat on in Phoenix in July. You're not going to turn the air conditioner on in December in Michigan, but you're going to need to make sure that you have a heating and cooling mechanism working in the property. All your appliances have to work. Make sure that you don't have a lot of junk in the property. All your garbage should be out of it. Remember, when you have bars on the windows, they have to have an inside release. So if you have a fire, how are they going to get out of the house? Okay. Pre-78 peeling or chip paint has to do with lead-based poisoning. So you don't want kids running around eating paint chips outside your house. So anything peeling or whatnot. and then make sure your railings are secure and you don't have any exposed wires. That will definitely tag you in the process. Keep those things in mind generally, and that will definitely help save some time and hassle. GFCI outlets are another thing that typically are going to show up in your inspection anyway. Those can be a problem if you don't have those installed in the right places. Basically kitchen, bathrooms, anywhere where water can get to it are also a problem. So let's take a look at kind of the more in-depth checklist that we follow, that the inspector is going to follow, so you can kind of see into the nitty-gritty. But I think if you kind of follow the list that I just gave you, that's going to be general, along with the home inspection that you normally get. All right, so the second inspection that you're going to see typically is you're going to have an annual inspection or a biannual inspection. So every PHA is a little bit different with how they do it, but they're going to schedule somebody to go out there and check everything out once a year or once every 2 years. I think is the longest they can wait. Same concept. Is not as in-depth, the second one, as the first one is on the initial. So there's some things that they let go because of, the person's in there, et cetera, et cetera. So they're definitely much more dialed into the initial inspection than they are to the renewals. And that's the same way with leases too. They get really, really crazy on the initial lease, but then renewals, are super easy. So that's kind of how the deal works. Now, same thing with the inspection failure. If something happens, you have 30 days to remedy the problem. Now, this is a little bit harder and it helps that they're lax on it, because you're not really going to be in a situation where unless your tenant has told you that there could be some problems or something's not working or whatever. So if they don't tell you, you could fail an inspection in this situation and not even know why. Mainly because they didn't let you know something wasn't working, something was broken, something was not functional, et cetera, et cetera. So they're all kind of tied together here, but obviously that's why it's important you have some fluid conversation, communication with your tenants, because anything that goes wrong you want to know, especially if you're coming up on an annual renewal where you could end up in an inspection situation. So the special inspection is a little bit different. This is basically a requested inspection by someone that's not on just a regular schedule, essentially. So what that means is like, let's say that something's going wrong. The property's in shambles, or there's some issues with it, and they've maybe requested that the landlord fixes something, they haven't fixed it, or maybe a neighbor calls in, they see that the property's not being taken care of. There could be issues with what's going on inside the property. So maybe somebody's in danger, et cetera. So again, this can be ordered by an outside organization, a family member, third-party agency, whatever it happens to be. So it can kind of range a little bit in that front as far as who orders it. So, but this is very, very rare. We don't see this very often, but this is in cases of extreme one way or the other where there could be, some problems. So remember, these properties are supposed to meet housing standards. Now, granted, typically this is going to be a family member type of situation, because no one's really going to know, as far as a neighbor or the guy across the street, that the person that's in the property is Section 8. It's not like they have a bumper sticker or whatever, or a flag on the property that says that's what you're doing. So in order for somebody to call PHA and report it, they would actually have to know that the person's a Section 8 tenant on a voucher, which, again, like I said, usually comes down to family, okay? So they do want, if it is a tenant situation where they're the ones that are complaining about something, they do want that to run through the landlord first to give them an opportunity to remedy whatever that situation is. So if they said, hey, I don't have air conditioning and it's in Phoenix and my house is 100 degrees, and you as the landlord have had 3 opportunities to send somebody out and you haven't sent somebody out yet, that could trigger something like that. Or, hey, I have a water leak and there's no plumber, or my toilet doesn't flush, or, my stove doesn't work, or whatever it is. They have to give you a reasonable opportunity to address and fix whatever that is, okay? Now, this isn't good, but if you have one of these within 120 days of an annual inspection, it does count. So you're not going to get double dipped on it. Once they come, they kind of will give you a 12-month reprieve on, coming for a third time or whatever it is in that same year. So the last one is a quality control inspection. This is basically just a random pull of a sampling. So if they have 100 units under lease, they're going to pull 5 randomly out of a hat and inspect those units on their own, just as a sample size. That one, there's nothing you can do about. If you get drawn, you get drawn. That's really for them to try to establish some consistency in quality control on their part from the standpoint of their inspectors. And so that's kind of why they do it. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with a fellow investor. Hopefully this helps you pass your next inspection. And thank you for supporting the channel. See you in the next video.